Hi everyone, and welcome to our discussion session on taking your first steps to a sustainable home, featuring panellists who've already been on that journey and whose homes are open for Sustainable House Day today. My name is Cumming. I'm the editor of Sanctuary Modern Green Homes magazine, published by Renew, the organiser of Sustainable House Day. I have a long-standing interest in sustainable, energy-efficient and comfortable homes that tread lightly on the earth, and I really love being part of the mission to inspire and educate people about the design strategies, the materials and the systems available to achieve them. The best part of my job at Sanctuary actually is visiting people's incredible green homes, big and small, modern and rustic, high-tech and simple, and picking their brains about how they got there. So I'm very much looking forward to today's session. Whether you're new to the whole idea of a sustainable home, well into your own research and planning, or just interested in how others have done it, this session is for you. We'll be looking at what the most important elements of a sustainable home are, where to start, and no doubt we'll be covering plenty of top tips, must-dos, and things to avoid along the way. So now I'm going to ask each of our panellists to introduce themselves, and then we'll get the discussion underway. As Erin said at the beginning, you can ask questions using the Q&A feature in Zoom. The chat is for general chat and resources. So please put your questions in Q&A. We'll get to as many of them as we can during the session. So first I'd like to welcome Nari, whose Murragun house is on the New South Wales Central Coast. Go Nari.
G'day, hi everyone. So for us, it all started when we sold up in Sydney and we bought a bush block. And from the outset, we had the idea to design and build a sustainable family home. The block already had a level building pad with an approval for a house when we bought it. So we set to work looking for architects and talking about the look and feel of the house that we wanted, indoor-outdoor living, warm lighting, traditional elements like high skirting boards, cornices, rustic timber indoors, that sort of thing. And we were pretty keen on the look and ethic of straw bale homes, but we ended up on a different path and with a great local architect and builder, Aspect Z. Of course, we had 1,000 choices to make along the way, so we had to be prepared to do our homework and to keep the energy levels up to keep things fun. And as it turned out, a lot of the things that drew us to the property in the first place were also part of the challenges in the build. So for example, we had no town water or sewer connections. The land's partly forested, so it's mapped as a bushfire prone area. So we had to design and construct to part BAL 40 and BAL 29 conditions. The house is all on one level. It uses passive design elements and flexible room configurations to maximise the usable space where we want to live. And the house was a finalist in the regional HIA Building Awards as a custom home. We're really happy to live in it, and we've learned so much about building and design along the way. We're proud to support local and sustainable products and to keep treading lightly where we can. So thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. Next up, we have Richard, who is the homeowner and builder of Harmony House, which is in Gippsland, Victoria. Go for it, Richard.
There we go. So our journey really started when we were looking around in our area for a house to buy. And in our price range, didn't find anything that really grabbed us at all. And when we tried to figure out why that was, it really revolved around issues of livability and also performance. And it was about that time where we discovered what passive solar house design actually was and what benefits that brings. And obviously there weren't any sort of about ready to buy in our neighbourhood. So we went about learning about passive solar design. So I read quite a few books on the subject just to sort of educate myself. And then I went about trying to make it happen. And I went through a lot of different pathways, container homes and kit homes and custom builds and standard builds, just trying to find that combination of performance and affordability for our price range. And it was quite a hard nut to crack. But for us, the solution came when we discovered the Design for Place plans on the Your Home website. It first grabbed us as being a fantastic layout for our family. I really liked, when I first saw it, the zoning and just the general layout. But then when I really analysed it based on all the reading I've done and all that I've learnt about passive solar design, I realised what a fantastic design it was. And the fact that no one had built it yet didn't put us off. It looked so good on paper. Okay, we'll do this. And we're so glad we did. It was that real initial choice there which has allowed everything else to come together. We've got fantastic stable internal temperatures all year round, and it's just a fantastic place to live in. So that was really a pivotal moment in our first steps to having this all happen.
Thanks very much, Richard. Great photos of your house being shown on the screen there.
Thanks.
We're moving over to Geelong now, to the Belmont Sustainable House, where we have Fleur, who's the homeowner, and Greg, who's the principal of BIOS Design, Build and Sustain, joining us today.
Hi, I'm Fleur Pitman. I'm the homeowner and I'm also a sustainable building consultant. Greg McNeil from BIOS Design and I co-designed my home. I wanted to demonstrate a sustainable design and infill development on a modest $300,000 budget with all the features and more comfort than a standard home. My home demonstrates that a sustainable, high-performing home does not have to cost more, and that you can build a good quality infill development and still have a garden setting and an edible garden. I built the home in 2012 and it employs passive solar design and achieved an 8.5 star energy efficiency rating at that time. The house was built using recycled and sustainable materials chosen for durability, low maintenance, and importantly, indoor air quality. Designing for sustainability has provided a high level of comfort with a light interior and efficient use of space. We've also catered for the changing needs of occupants with multi-purpose spaces and ambulatory accessibility. The polished concrete slab and reverse brick veneer provide the thermal mass, and other sustainable features include solar power, a Zender heat exchange ventilation system for optimal indoor air quality, LED lighting, smart start saver recirculating hot water system, 9,000 litre rainwater tank, a grey water system, edible garden and sustainable land use. And the home won 4 awards in 2014, including Best Sustainable Design awarded by Kevin McLeod at Grand Designs Live at the National NABD Awards.
I wonder how many other fans of Grand Designs we have watching here. I'm certainly one. Thanks very much, Fleur, and welcome, Greg, too. I'm sure you're going to have some interesting things to say about the Belmont Sustainable House when we get into the discussion. And our final panellist today is Ian Fraser from the Korora Coastal Forest Home, which is near Coffs Harbour in northern New South Wales. Hi, Ian.
Hello, Anna and everyone. Welcome to our Korora Coastal Forest House on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. There's a new build on 34 acres, majority which is coastal forest to the north of the house and ocean views down the Korora Valley towards the southeast. I'm Ian, wife's Carmen in the background, and
I'm James Fraser. I'm architect from Mora. I'm based on the Central Coast and at Kilpare.
And if anybody's had a chance to see our video, you'll know that our builder, Simon Chaseley from Headland Building, also presented some slides there relating to Headland Building's in-house fabrication of our steel frame and his local sourcing of sustainable timber cladding, which is a bit of a feature on our building.
This is an off-grid house on a steep rural site. And the house follows the contours, and because of the site, we look to the east, so with a few challenges to it in eastern elevation. It's a 4-bedroom house with open plan living on the main level, with raking ceilings to an upper sort of master bedroom, and really taking advantage of the eastern views and the morning sun.
And just as a feature, North Coast Power Systems was recommended by my fellow attendees at various Renew technical presentations I attended up in the Brisbane Renew branch. I've got some good names and contacts from there. The off-grid solar system has 8.3 kilowatts of roof-mounted panels, a Cellectronic inverter giving full remote access. Luckily, we've got a internet aerial that's within viewing of ours, so we get pretty good, hopefully good reception to everyone talking while we're here. And we have 9 kVA backup genset because we're off grid, and the 13 kilowatt hour BYD lithium ion battery. And as we mentioned, there's some hills towards the north, and that actually limits our winter sun to about 6 hours. So the whole system's been modelled and designed around that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian and James. Good to have you here. Okay, that's everybody. I hope that everybody enjoyed that quick overview of the projects, and I do trust that people who are interested have already gone and viewed the videos for the longer videos that explain those houses, give a bit of a tour of the houses that we're, whose owners and designers we're talking to today. They're available on the Sustainable House Day website. You can access them through the links on the session section of the program for this session, if you want to go and have a look afterwards, if you haven't had a chance so far. So let's get started on the discussion part. The first question that I would like to kick off with is, you know, there are many different considerations that feed into the idea of sustainability. It's not a simple concept. What do you think are the most important elements of that of sustainability to focus on or to prioritise when you're planning a sustainable house? Go for it, James.
Yeah, look, I think my journey in this is to realise that there's no perfect answer, and there's a lot of factors that come into it. On this particular project, the steep site certainly presented a certain avenue. You know, individual climates. There's a whole lot of informed decisions that will be suitable for the block that will take you down one avenue.
Oh, fuck.
And you know, it's really, I think, often about letting go of what you think you might be doing and go with what makes sense. So, yeah.
I think it's also determining what your brief is with sustainability. There can be quite a number of priorities, and you can build, you know, a house between 0 and 10 stars. And there's different ways of achieving that. Obviously, you want to be up at the upper end scale if you can, but some site constraints don't allow for an 8.5, 9-star home. So you can look at a zero carbon home by offsetting the energy consumption that you require for heating and cooling with on-site renewables. You can take it to the sustainable selection and maintenance of the materials as well. And I think Brendan Condon from the Cape Developments has said that 7.5 to 8.5 stars is considered the economic sweet spot for carbon cost and comfort. So you don't need to build a 10-star home, but you need to balance out the comfort of the home, which can be achieved through passive solar design elements, and the energy consumption of the home and offsetting that with on-site renewables. But if you want to do this on the smallest budget like I did, I had an existing home, I subdivided the site, had an 850 square metre site. The house site that I'm now built on is 450 and the existing house has 400 square metres. That was a flat site, it was north facing. It had existing deciduous trees to the north, which added to the passive solar design. So I was able to do that in 2012 on a $300,000 budget. So if you're starting from scratch and you have absolutely not selected a site, the best thing you can do is buy the site, if you need to build on a really strict budget, that works in with making an inexpensive design, because obviously slopes and other elements can add to the cost of getting out of the ground before you even consider the other elements. So that's one approach to take, is to really look and get some advice when you're purchasing the site, to see that you're choosing something that's working with you. And obviously you can work with any site that you have, but that's just going to perhaps require a different budgetary consideration. I don't know what Greg thinks about that.
Oh yeah, well, I was thinking along the same lines, as coming from a designer's perspective. It's touched on by both talkers, including Fleur. When a client comes to us and asks, we want you to design a sustainable home, the first thing we ask them is, what is your vision, or what is your interpretation of a sustainable home or sustainability as a whole? And that starts to prompt a whole series of questions. And you also sort of get them to sort of quote their or define their development, whether they're looking to design from scratch or rebuild or a new building, or are they renovating an existing building, or are they looking to redevelop a site similar to what Fleur's project was like. So those types of questions sort of start to really inform a feasibility on how you can then produce a response to your client, because as already has been touched on, you may have a site already that comes into as a major player on how you deal with the response to all those notions of sustainability. If you're a greenfield site that has open orientation to the northerly aspect, that changes the whole dynamic again. So it really does depend on defining some very simple things quite early on.
Yeah, so I'm getting that there's as with many complex situations, there are trade-offs, and it depends on the individual homeowner's priorities, whether it's the balance of energy efficiency and sustainable materials and performance and longevity and maintenance requirements, and then taking into account the any challenges or limitations of the site and budget and so forth. Would that be a fair summary? Yeah. Richard, you had something that you wanted to add? Could you unmute yourself, please, Richard?
Just agreeing with that site choice aspect, that's really important, and you've got a great advantage if you do have a northern aspect. And we'd actually chosen a site early on which had a great northern aspect, and it really is a great advantage. And I should just correct one of your opening comments, Anna. I'm not a builder, so I manage the overall project. We had registered builders obviously do the build part, but where I came into it was putting together all the other elements like our off-grid energy and the rammed earth walls, the water collection system and the worm farm septic system, and our so all of those sorts of things, and the flooring too, we brought together to sort of enhance those original plans and what the end result was. And I think one of the initial, as well as site choice, I think energy efficiency actually forms a lot of your later pathways. I don't know if anyone else found that, but if you have a really energy efficient house and a passive solar aspect, then it means you don't have to spend as much on other aspects, which maybe means you can spend more on some other things that you want. So energy efficiency of your design, as well as your initial aspect, I think form a lot of the pathway that you then follow.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, sorry about that. I know that you were the owner builder of your house, technically.
Oh, and, no. So not an owner builder.
Oh, either. Okay.
No.
All right.
Just
my mistake.
Project manager. Yeah. So okay. I didn't do it as an owner build. It was registered builders that built. So yeah, I was just the overall project manager.
Okay.
With all the other elements that were.
Thanks for the clarification. My mistake.
That's all right.
We have a question in the chat from Petula asking, what does passive design mean? so passive solar design. So that this is a very basic element of most people's idea of a sustainable house. So I wonder if one of you would like to put your hand up to give a quick summary of passive solar design.
Yeah, so passive solar design is it's called passive because there's no active elements. So the house is naturally heating and cooling itself. So it can mean different things in different climates, because I'm aware that we're addressing a national audience today. So if you're in a Victorian climate or a cooler climate, which is predominantly a heating climate, you want to face the house north. So you have what we call contributing windows on the north, and they let the sun in winter to warm your thermal mass, which is your concrete slab or your internal brickwork, and that warms it during the day. And then at night, your warm concrete re-radiates that back into the house. So for instance, my passive solar house in winter only requires 1 hour of heating to run during the day, just to bring it from 18 to 20 degrees in the morning. And the sun comes in all day long, warms that slab, and then the heater doesn't run again for 24 hours. And when I mentioned contributing windows, it's because those northern windows are passively heating your house. So you want to minimize your southern windows, your western and your eastern windows generally, because you get a lot of heat loss or heat gain in summer. So with the passive solar, you've got that thermal mass, which is going to do the reverse for you in summer. It's going to cool the house. So you shade all of your northern windows in summer, and that then allows the heat from the air to be absorbed into the concrete slab to naturally reduce the indoor air temperature. And then at night, once the outdoor temperature drops below your indoor air temperature, you actually expel that heat by cross ventilation, opening up your house. But my house at 8.5 stars, I've actually had 5 consecutive days in January over 40, and the house only reached a maximum of 26 degrees at the end of the 5th day with no air conditioning. There's no need for air conditioning here. I do have ceiling fans. And then there was also a couple of nights during that week where I couldn't heat purge because the overnight temperature was higher than the 24-degree overnight indoor temperature. So it was 26 outside, 24 inside. So that's what passive solar is doing for you. It's reducing your heating and cooling loads. But if you're up in Queensland, your passive solar is going to be not letting sun in at all. If you're far north Queensland, you're not going to worry about your northerly aspect. You're going to have wide eaves around that house, wide verandas. You're going to have a lot of cross ventilation. You're going to have louvers. Air movement is really important. The old Queenslander up off the ground, getting air moving under the house as well. So it really means different things. So part of that designing your brief that we're talking about earlier is also designing for your climate. And that's a really important thing. Look at your site and then what climate zone are you in? And that's why when we do energy ratings on new homes, we're actually breaking Australia down into 69 climate zones. So it's very specific. So you might be in Victoria, and this happens a lot, and see a Queenslander home that's got a great northern alfresco area that's got a fixed roof over it and want to build that in, say, Geelong where I am. But that's going to disadvantage you because that fixed roof is going to stop that sun coming in. So I have a retractable blind. So in summer, I can pull that out and have all the shade I want in my northern outdoor area. But in winter, that retracts away, so it allows that sun in, and also gives you the flexibility that we will have a 30-degree day in October, and you can pull that blind out, and then we'll have a 18-degree December day because Geelong's so variable. So yeah, so it allows the house to passively heat and cool itself.
Yes, Anna, just to add on to that conversation, what Fleur was talking about, just recently we've had some reasonably cool temperatures outside in Coffs Harbour. As we're coming into the house, after looking at some of the stars above, and it's beautiful and warm in the house, and we haven't even put the heater on yet. So a little bit like Fleur was saying, we're not really into Queensland, we're subtropical here in Coffs Harbour. But the way James has designed the house, we do have that really nice sun entry in the winter. And as again Fleur mentioned about the wide eaves, we haven't really been here in the height of summer, but we're expecting we'll get that lot more shading and cooler temperatures. The other thing is, James brought our little model, and basically the living area through here. So down below, we've actually got water tanks to the back of our lower ground floor. And on some of the warmer days we've had during winter, which is not too bad in Coffs Harbour, we can really feel the cool air coming in through some vents we have towards that big cool mass of our water tanks behind the lower ground floor. So no, that's been passive, as Fleur mentioned, because we didn't have active heating or cooling.
I think too, it's good to mention, you mentioned your water tanks, is another form of your thermal mass can actually be water tanks. So if you have a lightweight construction because you've got a slope and you can't use concrete because it's going to increase the cost of construction, you can use your water tank elements to store that energy from the sun as well and incorporate that into the design. So people can consider that as well. There's lots of different ways of achieving the passive outcome depending on the climate and the site constraints.
And I can perhaps help answer that question for the viewer just with what's showing behind me now. And this was a light bulb moment for me. I can remember my first sustainable house day visit when I was visiting someone's house, and it really sort of became clear how passive solar design can keep you warm in winter but also cool in summer. I sort of didn't get it, but because it's northern aspect, the sun angle is different. In summer it's high and in winter it's low. So in winter, the sun penetration, and you can see that behind me, goes all the way to the kitchen, right to the back of the kitchen, and warms the entire area. But in summer, the sun doesn't come in at all. There's no penetration. And here in spring, it's a crossover season. So we've got about 1.5 meters maximum penetration at the moment. So the angles and the orientation of the house actually work with, you know, physical nature outside. And that's how it helps keep warm in winter and cool in summer.
I'm going to throw to Nari, who we haven't heard from yet. Nari, have you, so the next question I'd actually like to ask, and I'm hoping that you'll have some thoughts on, is we've got a participant whose Zoom name is Tawny Frogmouth. Do you have any advice on finding a compatible builder, preparation, interviews, expectations, and so on?
Yeah, sure. And look, I think we were really lucky to find both an architect and a builder, and I don't know how common that experience is. So that was really good for us. But some of the things that we took into account when we were looking initially for architects was what was their track record on sustainability and things like passive design, but also I guess we had a particular look in mind with some more traditional elements than you might find in a really modern, sustainable home in terms of the look of the house. So we also wanted to make sure that the architect or the builder was comfortable working with some of those more traditional elements. And even though our designers build a lot of modern homes, we were able to work together to really put our stamp on the design. And I think we were comforted by how local they were. So rather than having someone who was going to have to travel an hour or two to get on site, who might be from Sydney or wherever, the fact that they were local meant that it was really convenient for them to be on site when they needed to be, for us to drop by and have a conversation whenever we needed to. And also I think we were impressed by some of the examples that specific examples that the architect and builder gave of where they'd done things before, or materials that they knew about, principles of passive design and other sustainability elements that they gave examples of and pictures of and things of developments they'd already built.
And a related question for Richard. From Rachel Flynn. Richard, was it easy to take the government house plan to your builder, and was your builder able to work directly from the plans easily enough? Any issues there?
No, that was one of the great things about having the plans there in front of you right from the beginning, is that you can use them to shop round. So for example, the plans come with a window schedule, so fully measured out window schedule. So I sent that exact schedule to, I think, 12 different companies to basically, try to find the best combination of performance and affordability for windows. And if we hadn't have had those plans, you know, it would have been hard to do that. And so we did that with our builders as well, that we sent the plans as is to our different builders to get an idea of what the cost would be through them to build. Now, I should point out that the plans do need drafting to build stage. So you still need a draft person to come in at some point to draft them to build stage. But that's where you can make your own little tweaks too, you know, if you wanted to change anything. So that's, you know, a good part of the process as well. But yet having all those plans in front of you allowed me to shop around for all sorts of things, even the flooring, because, you know, all the measurements were there, all the room sizes. And that was one of the ways that, it was made a lot easier for us once we decided that that was our pathway.
Somebody in the chat's just asking what plans you're talking about, Richard. Just to reiterate, it's government provided, architect designed plans called Design for Place, and they're available through the government's publication Your Home. The actual plans are not available in the printed version, but they are available for free on the website and downloadable by anybody. And there's a variety of different designs available.
That's right. And that's Your Home. Resource. Oh, it is. That Your Home is fantastic. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'd read 6 textbooks on passive solar design just so I knew what it was about. But when I came across that website, you know, all the information there is of such good quality, and you can really find out, you know, not just the basics, but a good in-depth but very readable outline on everything from water catchment to heating to cooling to passive solar design. And yes, so as you say, the Design for Place plans are there. So we think we're the first to build the original one. And I think they've just released in the last month a couple of different versions as well. So for different orientations, I think on blocks, and even a double story version too. So there's more to choose from there. But either way, you know, as I said, having those plans up front just really helps streamline the shopping around and costing process.
A quick note on finding a builder too is HIA, the Housing Industry Association, have a Green Smart Builders list. So they're builders that have done a Green Smart qualification. And also Passive House Association also have a listing of Passive House qualified builders. So if you don't know anyone any builder that's interested in these fields, they can be a good start because you can search in your area.
Yep, thanks, Fleur. Greg, did you want to add something to that?
I'll just add to both those comments on that. It is really good to have a builder who's on board, like with your objectives, because no matter how many specifications or drawings you provide, you need a builder who's open to, I guess, ongoing discussion and ongoing workshopping with you along the way. Like I've had some projects where they just get caught for various reasons and clients are forced into making decisions that they didn't want to do. For instance, one project had recycled bricks nominated and it had the lead times and everything specified, but the builder, for whatever reason, didn't plan ahead. And ultimately they weren't able to procure the product in the time to deliver the project. So while you can get around these issues, it's best to try and avoid them. So having a bit on board with you with your objectives and can plan and apply what's required to meet those objectives.
And just to add on our experience with finding the builder, it was really just the enthusiasm they came up with. It was quite distinct from the other builders we were talking to. And I think it's been alluded to, people who are problem solvers, and they can look sideways and laterally and come up with solutions. Our headland building, Murrogun, was fantastic. It's enthusiastic, and they really like the uniqueness of the house. So, and it was mentioned going and seeing some of their previous work and talking to previous clients. I think that's so valuable because you really get it from a client's perspective.
The builder here too was really interested in even though he had never reversed brick veneer before, really happy to explore that, look at the detailing, because it changes the way your windows and doors are detailed. It does impact on normal construction, where how door handles and things can be located, window openings can be located. So yeah, that's mindset with your builder, being open to looking at different aspects and working with you really helps. Because if your builder is working against you, that's going to make the process hard.
Oh, Greg?
Just another one to it, like as a practice, we often get the builder involved really early on.
Yeah.
Because you're actually then dealing with someone who's in real time in terms of costs. And that way, again, it comes back to defining your sustainable and your checklist of notions that you want to apply to your house. You can actually coordinate that with your designer and your builder while sort of developing the project, not getting to the end of the design process and then suddenly realizing you can't afford everything you need to do, and suddenly you're put into a stage of sort of immediate stress in trying to get your project up and running. Whereas if the builder's on board at the start, you're developing the project holistically with your designer and yourself.
Thank you all for your input there. So I'm getting quite a lot of questions in the Q&A about thermal mass and flooring types. People asking about how to justify the carbon footprint of concrete for a concrete slab floor, which is a good way of achieving thermal mass in a passive solar house. What options there are for eco concrete if you're going to go that route. What options there are. Richard, I know you're going to have something to say about this for thermal mass floors for people who don't like the feel of concrete underfoot. I know you found a good solution for that, and also for questions about if you are going to have a timber floor as opposed to a concrete slab floor, how do you replicate the thermal benefits, or approximate, get close to the same thermal benefits? Can you achieve that with insulation? So maybe we'll go to you first, Richard.
Yeah, we had a really lucky find there. So I think to answer the first part of the question, I think life cycle sort of answers the first part of the question, how you can justify, that internal thermal mass and the footprint of that. And if you build a house to last, and we went to a lot of trouble here to have long-lived and low-maintenance solutions wherever possible throughout. So this house will far outlast me and my kids. And when you add up the benefits over the life cycle of the actual house, then it's certainly justified. But yeah, to the point about concrete underfoot, the main part of thermal mass within a passive solar house is usually the slab, but a lot of people don't like to have concrete underfoot, and I included. But we had sort of reluctantly, come to the conclusion that the performance, outweighed our sort of personal preferences on that. But then I came across a product called Heatwood Flooring by Eco Timber Group here in Victoria. And it was basically developed for the in-slab hydronics market, because they have the same problem. They want heat exchange from the slab to the room. And if you put timber or carpet, on the slab, it stops that heat exchange. And in a passive solar environment, we want that same heat exchange to the room and back again. And so their product is basically recycled stone together with a thin veneer of wood on top, and it's all specifically designed to transfer heat. So you can see behind me the flooring there. We're fully thermally connected to the slab, so we have all the thermal benefits of that. But aesthetics-wise and walking around, it's as if we have timber flooring. So it was just such a, I was over the moon when I found, I couldn't believe there was that, perfect solution there.
So sorry, Richard, I'm going to have to just get you to, I want to get the thoughts of a couple of other people on that.
Sure.
Thank you, though. Go, Greg.
So I've had to deal with that in two ways on other projects. So one way we decided to minimise concrete. So what we did, we went to an alternative slab system, and it's called Couple-X. And that's a series of interconnecting PVC pods, particularly designed around contaminated sites and high highly reactive sites, but it effectively forms a floating slab that, because of the nature of the pod sitting on the ground, you're actually reducing quite a lot of your concrete content. But you're still maintaining your thermal mass. So that was one way. In another one, it was an inner city site in Melbourne where, like, the site was less, like the area on the site was less than most of your average homes in Melbourne. It was 180 square meters. So space was critical, but we still wanted thermal mass. So there's a product called Phase Change, which is a pocket system that goes into your lightweight walls, and there are varying temperature ranges that you can purchase, but it works in the same way as thermal mass does in your concrete slab. At a certain temperature, it'll start absorbing energy, and then at a lower temperature, it'll start releasing it again back into your room. And we've found that works quite well in that house. And that's another product that you can get around getting thermal mass other than concrete.
Okay, thanks very much, Greg. Yes, I'm a bit of a fan of PCM, phase change materials myself. So we're getting very close to the end of the session, guys. I just would like to give you the opportunity to run around, to run around all of you, and just if you could give your top 1 or 2 tips or something to avoid for achieving, for getting started on a sustainable house. Nari, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. So look, read the Bible, and the Bible is sanctuary magazine when it comes to sustainable design. We had a subscription, electronic subscription, that was a gift to us for a birthday or Christmas, and it's such a good read. It's really inspiring, and you can sort of push the envelope in your thinking and prioritize. So that's the first tip. Second tip you might not think of. Your choice of bank. So another sponsor, actually, we're with Bank Australia, and it was an opportunity for us to ditch the Big Four and move to a bank that was more in line with our ethics. So you might get go to one of the Big Four, but also shop around and see what the smaller banks can offer in terms of a loan. And finally, sustain your relationship. So are you in it together? What do you want the same things? Where are your likely sticking points going to be? And how are you going to divide up the complex and ongoing job of designing and going through the build, find your niche and work together?
Oh, thanks very much for the plug, Nari, and for the thoughts. And I'm very sorry, everybody else. I was hoping to get around everybody, but I'm being told in the background that we're out of time. So there's just so many questions that we haven't got to. Thank you for your very intelligent questions, everybody. Thank you for your all your thoughts and your sharing your experiences to Fleur, Greg, Erin. Sorry, not Erin, your manager, SHD manager. Fleur, Greg, Ian, James, Richard and Nari, thank you very much for being involved in this session. I feel like we've really only scratched the surface. I'd encourage everybody whose questions we didn't get to jump back onto the Sustainable House Day website, look up these fine participants' houses, and there is an opportunity to post comments and questions on those pages as well. I hope that you will all be able to spend a bit of time answering those questions, and plenty of resources on the website. So please keep reading and keep watching the videos. Thank you very much for joining us today, and particularly to our panelists, thanks for your information and your time and your expertise. It was great. Wish we could have twice as much time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anna.
Nice to renew. Bye.